Greetings and salutations from the ISC Sports Network. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is the incredibly creatively and appropriately named and somewhat charitably award-winning Query and Schultz program here. Derek, when I was a kid, my buddy Matt Jacklin, who I think you've met before, we would be like cutting through backyards or something, and occasionally I would just all of a sudden charge Jacklin. I don't know why Jacklin, and like tackle him and say, Lawrence Taylor. It became like a thing for us for years, but this is show Lawrence Taylor. Do you want me to show you what I do to Jacklin?
You'd assault your friends. That's neat. LT was a huge deal when I was growing up.
I'm sure.
Everybody wanted to be 56 or 23. You know, it was Jordan and LT were the two big ones, but he was third on my list. I'm not going to lie. The Giants were a couple of rungs down for me in my sports fandom. Like up here was IU basketball and the Knicks and the Yankees. Giants were a couple rungs down, but besides Don Mattingly and Patrick Ewing, I'd say he was my favorite pro athlete as a child.
He was a great player, Lawrence Taylor. But this is the Lawrence Taylor Show, and notably Colts pregame show, because Colts in Baltimore coming up here shortly. The Ravens, this always feels like this nasty, punch-you-in-the-mouth, defensive-based team talking about the Baltimore Ravens. But, you know, look, Lamar Jackson's given them a different element. There are a lot of things that Indianapolis is going to have to be concerned with going into Baltimore.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Baltimore, the Ravens, I think more than anybody else, maybe you'd say this about the Browns, at least some of the good Browns teams, and I know it's hard to find the good Browns teams. They reflect their city, I think, more than anyone else, don't they?
Good, yeah.
Like gritty, tough, like, you know, kind of dangerous in a way. That's how I've always felt about when you end up playing the Ravens. But what I'm so interested in tonight's game, Jake, is that I really feel like it's 17 games, right? It's a long season. It's 4 months. This feels like the type of game that we point to in December and we say, okay, here's where it ended or here's where it started kind of for the Colts. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think necessarily a loss just throws everything out for the Colts this season, because no one's running away outside of Buffalo. No one's really running away and hiding in the AFC. But at the same time, this is the type of win that I think could really catapult you back to the trajectory that some fans had hoped for back in August.
Yeah, that's fair. I think when you look at the possibility of being 1-4, even though Tennessee has stubbed their toe a few times, you do feel like that there then is some separation where it's going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
To get back into that mix, right? Whereas, obviously, I know it's only one game difference between 1-4 and 2-3, but it feels like a 10-game difference.
It does. And I don't know what that is either. I mean, we've seen the Colts come back from, God, what were they, 1-5, I think, in 2018. I think the difference is that you had luck and you had a lot of things kind of align in the middle of that season, and I don't know if they're necessarily going to align here. But I really felt like when we first got this schedule, whenever that was, you know, the NFL does the big schedule release hullabaloo, April or May. Just survive the first 5 games. And to me, surviving is 2-3. That's what I had the Colts at. I picked them to go 10-7. I had them start 2-3. So if you can survive these first 5 games at 2-3, you've got Houston. You know, you've still got all 4 games against the Jaguars and Texans. You've got a game against the Jets. The schedule is not easy per se. I think it's actually a little bit more difficult than what the prognosticators say, because you've got some tricky, you know, the Niners are a tricky team to play. The Raiders, I know, have come back to earth, but that's going to be a tough team. The Buccaneers are a tough team. But you also have a lot of winnable games that are in there too.
You know, when you look at the NFL right now and you look at the Colts and you think to yourself, okay, 1 win. But Derek, to your point, no one is running away and hiding, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot. This is what the NFL wants. There's a lot of parity there. For me, I look at the Colts and I think, okay, if this is a watershed game for them, and we'll see, but every year there is a game where they go into primetime on the road and you think, whoa, okay.
Yeah. Thursday night in Nashville last year, remember?
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at the Colts.
The Kansas City game in 2019.
That game is tonight. Colts go in and win in Baltimore.
Oh, come on.
2-3.
You stole that from me.
No.
You knew that I was going to pick the Colts tonight, because I never pick the Colts. I felt all week. I don't know why.
Yes.
I felt all week that they're going to win this game.
Everything is going to go their way.
I don't even know what I'm basing that on. Like, we could get in here and talk, the Ravens are rushing for 165 yards. I mean, we could do that if you want to, but I've just had this weird, like, gut feeling that the Colts are going to go in there and win all week. Baltimore is good. I don't think they're great. They're kind of middle of the road in these first 4 games where they've been okay defensively. They've been pretty good offensively. Lamar Jackson's a special player and has really lifted them on his shoulders.
For a wide receiver, he's an excellent quarterback. Right?
Well, yeah. And they've had to deal with a lot of injuries, just like the Colts have had to deal with a lot of injuries. But I've had kind of the same feeling that you've had, Jake, and I'm bummed about this because I was assuming that you were going to say, oh, the Ravens roll by 10-plus points or whatever, and then we could kind of play off of each other. But now we're going to be the 2 doinks that pick that say we and us and let's go horseshoes and
our buddy
go
Nestor,
1-0 this week,
our
baby.
buddy Nestor, the radio personality in Baltimore, would hate it if we know that both of us think that Indianapolis could win
Nestor,
tonight.
And Nestor is a brand name there in Baltimore. And there are a lot of radio guys like this that are really into the hometown teams. But we had him once on the show, and we were talking about the departure of Joe Flacco. I think the Colts and Ravens were playing a preseason game. So this was like 2015 or whenever Flacco left. And he was like, well, look, kind of like you guys with Peyton Manning and Indy, Joe Flacco's the same way. He won a championship, and Peyton won a championship, and, the 2 are the same. And I'm like, well, same, and yeah, they both won a championship, but you're not actually saying that, it's the same level. Well, yeah, and, at the end of the day, they both won 1. And I think I just shut my mic off, and I let you kind of continue the question. I'm like, no, man, they're actually not the same at all.
Didn't Nestor drop like 4 F-bombs on the air when we asked him about Bob Irsay?
No, his go-to was GD. Remember? Every time he'd do the Bob Irsay impersonation, this is a guy that is a lifelong Baltimorean. Is that it?
Sure.
Baltimorean?
Baltimorean,
okay. And he had a good relationship with the Irsay family in like 1981, 82, 80, when those teams were really bad. And I think he's Jim's age, or maybe a little bit younger than him. He's in his 50s. And he had like a papier-mâché Bob Irsay thing that he brought in 2012 to the Super Bowl. He was like, this is the closure for Baltimore and Indy. And he's an interesting fellow for sure. We can close the book on that, by the way, right? Like, Baltimore's won 2 Super Bowls.
Derek, I think to people of that genre or that age, it's still it hurts because I think the Colts were a huge part of the fabric of who they were growing up.
Are you angry about it anymore?
Hurt is probably a better word. I love the city of Baltimore. I
know you do. You've talked about that.
I do. I love everything about it. I love the spirit of it. I love the people there. I love the city of Baltimore. But I think the Colts go in and having nothing to do with the Ravens or Baltimore, there just typically is a game per year where the Colts go on the road with a lot of spotlight on them. They did it. Do you remember the year that they were awful and they went to New England and they ended up by the late third, early fourth quarter kind of getting blown out?
Yeah, with Orlovsky.
They were hanging around.
Yeah, they only lost that game by a touchdown in 2011.
They were hanging around, right?
And the Patriots went all the way to the Super Bowl.
And you're like, look at this.
Yeah.
I just think that's what happens.
Yeah, the rule of thumb is that you win a game you have absolutely no business winning, and you lose one that you have absolutely no business losing. And look at 2019. I mean, they beat that Chiefs team, and we all thought, oh, my God, like this team might actually be good. And it turned out they weren't good at all.
Now, to me, my belief that the Colts will play well goes to I am and have been. I do like Carson Wentz. I like his skill set. I like what he can do. Another week of, getting a little more mobility. There are areas that around him need to be shored up. But I think we're going to see a continued progression of Carson Wentz. Is that me being foolishly bullish?
No, I'm interested. I think I would even go as far as to say that I am optimistic about what we might see from Carson Wentz. Now, I'm not where you are on him as a player. It's still very much prove it to me. He's at least proven that he's not broken yet. But I would say that he has played above my expectations so far. Now, my bar was a lot lower than most people, but he has played above those expectations. I'm just wondering, Jake, if this is the kind of game where you finally start to really get to Jonathan Taylor. I know he went for 100 yards last week, but he's only had 26 carries combined in the last 2 games, 6.2 yards per carry. This is the type of game where you really want to feed it to Taylor and control possession, control clock. I feel terrible saying that because for so many years teams wanted to do that against the Peyton Colts, and it never worked. But that's what you want to do, I think, against this Baltimore team. And then limit the big plays. What Baltimore lacks as far as being like an elite offense, what they can do is get big chunk plays.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor to me becomes a critical piece because, Derek, we know that he can get you yardage carrying the ball, but it's a weird balance because you want to do that because a large part of your offensive scheme involves Jonathan Taylor, but then again, in the NFL today, you don't see a lot of teams that are run the ball heavy that are winning championships, right? So delicate balance there, but I do think 20 carries tonight, right?
I would hope. And then defensively, maybe you can take advantage of this banged-up Baltimore offensive line because they don't have Ronnie Stanley. He went out with an ankle injury, I think, in week 1. So, you don't have your all-pro tackle. Alejandro Villanueva, I'm not sure what the update is on him. I think he might play. I know he returned to practice this week. Tyree Phillips, they've got a couple of other guys who are on the mend who may or may not play tonight. As you're watching this, they may have already announced that. I'm not sure. But maybe that's an area. We saw Kamoko Toure with 2 sacks last week. Maybe the pass rush can get going tonight.
They've got to get some form of pass rush, Derek.
Well, they got to get home is what the thing is.
The challenge is.
It's easy to get to Lamar.
Correct.
It's getting him down.
Correct.
That's going to be really tough for them to do.
And the pass rush, even though we've seen glimpses of it for the Colts, it's still you're waiting for it to just come together, right?
Yeah. And last year, if you remember that game, the Colts played the Ravens. I think they led at halftime, or they were maybe tied at halftime. And Baltimore came out in the second half and just dominated them. Phillip Rivers had one of his worst games of the year that year. And Jonathan Taylor fumbled and was benched. And it felt like this kind of watershed moment of the Colts season that, oh, no, they're going to now go backwards. And they really kind of rallied and recovered from that. I think, if memory serves, the next game was the Thursday night game in Tennessee where they just punched the Titans right in the mouth. And they immediately corrected and got back on course with the season. But, again, I think the theme tonight is that this could be really a season-changing type win for them if they can find a way to win it.
Do you like the Ravens helmets? This is obviously from last year. But
I've never really liked I don't like purple.
Okay.
I'm not a purple guy.
Do you like Prince?
Sure. Yeah. No, I respect and enjoy Prince. But I've never really been a purple guy.
He wouldn't like you
sports teams
if he was still with us, if he knew that you didn't like purple.
No, that's not necessarily true. Prince seemed to be a welcoming individual.
I don't disagree, but he was welcoming, I think, so long as you welcomed purple.
Well, he really liked weird people, so I know that he'd like you. Because Prince was kind of an insanely talented and gifted person, but kind of a weirdo as well.
Several things I have in common with him. Mm-hmm. What do we have to get to today?
We got a lot to touch on. Indiana and Purdue didn't play, which is actually great because neither of them lost. Notre Dame did play and survived a very strange game at Virginia Tech. But college football was just – I know you were on the road, and I do want to talk about your trip out west, but, man, what a college football Saturday we had. It was just insane.
Bonkers, right?
Starting with the Texas-Oklahoma game and then ending with the A&M and Bama nightcap.
And what prediction did I make that we are – honing in on collision course to being reality?
Well, we'll see. I mean, you've made other predictions on this show that haven't worked out.
But that one...
Maybe. Gun to my head today, if I had to pick 4 teams, this team would be the 4th of those 4 teams. Gun to my head.
Okay. Just so everybody knows, I'll just say it now because we're going to do more Colts coming up here.
Yeah.
I said once they lost to Oregon that I thought Ohio State was going to win out and still get in the playoff, and I mean the table is being completely set for them, right?
But there are 2 elements that are interesting about this.
Penn State and Michigan?
No. Oklahoma's quarterback change and that changing their entire season. Because I do wonder now that they've gone to Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler was holding them back. If that's now going to kind of kickstart Oklahoma, and they, unlike Ohio State, they don't have the blemish.
But so you think Alabama, because Alabama, everybody got so
Alabama
excited.
has to lose twice to fall out.
Everybody got so excited about Alabama losing, and I'm like, if they beat Georgia, they're in. Who cares, right?
Alabama might have to lose 3 times to be out, honestly.
So Alabama, Georgia, those 2 are almost locks, right?
No, I'm not going to put Alabama as a lock.
Okay, then we'll say Georgia.
Well, if they lose to Kentucky and then they lose the SEC championship game, okay. I don't think anyone's a lock. This is the kind of season where it's hard to say that about anybody.
For the sake of argument, I say Alabama, Georgia get in.
I do too.
And then Oklahoma, Oklahoma's going to stub their toe. But if Oklahoma wins out, Oklahoma's in. Okay, Who's the fourth at that point?
I don't know if Oklahoma's going to win out.
But I'm saying in scenarios.
Gun to my head.
In scenarios that would squeeze out Ohio State. If Ohio State runs the table.
Gun to my head, though, if Ohio State ran the table, which I think they can do, that would be my fourth team.
Who gets in? One loss Ohio State, with the loss being in September, or I guess it was September, right? Or if Ohio State is one loss Big Ten champion and they beat Penn State, they beat Michigan, they beat Iowa in the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
Who gets in, Ohio State or unblemished Cincinnati?
You know the answer to that question already. We've already seen it. And as much as I think Cincinnati is a deserving team, if the water holds here for Michigan and Penn State, and like if all of those teams end up 10-2, 11-1, or Iowa's an undefeated Big Ten West champion and they get beaten, that resume is going to dwarf what Cincinnati. No offense, it's not Cincinnati's fault.
Ohio
right?
State
I feel bad for them.
Ohio State will have a lot of help from other people that Cincinnati doesn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, we're ruining our segment already.
Okay, when we come back, here's what we're going to do. This is tricky. This is the art of television, podcasting, radio, multimedia on tape delay. The Colts, of course, are kicking off momentarily here. And those of you who are watching this leading into the Colts game, we thank you for that. You might be listening to this or watching it perhaps on its launch on Tuesday, in which case the Colts game is history. So, Derek, we'll just come back as if the Colts just played, right?
Yeah, so we'll do a recap where they win and one where they lose. And you guys aren't going to know any better. It's all a mirage.
Yeah, my entire life is a mirage. So
we'll come back and do that next. And some college football talk and a trip that Jake took. It's the coolest thing that he does every year. And you guys know me. I never think that anything Jake does is cool. This is really cool. So we'll come back and talk about all of that in this Colts pregame edition. Can we say that?
Sure.
Of Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Stick around.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
At Baird, we know your life is busy and doesn't leave much time to make sure your family's financial plans are on track. Our advisors will partner with you to plan for your future so you have more time for what matters most.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Q episode. And no, I don't mean wild conspiracy theories. I mean the Quentin Nelson episode number 56 of Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. My name is Jake Query. This is Derek Schultz.
Hi.
And Derek, listen, Quentin Nelson, I realize on IR, but in terms of the Colts in Baltimore, you would have thought he was there because the holes were vast for Jonathan Taylor running all over the field as the Colts now are 2-3 and a huge win for Indianapolis and Baltimore.
Yeah, a really big win. I feel like a season-changing win for the Colts the other night in Baltimore to come through on Monday Night Football and get that victory. Now you stay a game back in the AFC South as well. But a really big game for Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz, too, with a big game. And finally, the breakout for Paris Campbell that we've been waiting for. 3 touchdown catches for Paris Campbell.
I realized that the Colts were playing in their old home in the city of Baltimore and getting their win on primetime in Monday Night Football. But, Derek, when the Colts made that move, it was a long time ago, and it was kind of messy and kind of ugly. Would not have been if they'd have been able to use Bailey and Wood, because Mortgage in a snap would have been easy for him to make that move. If
That's
Bailey
right.
Wood
And the
was around.
snapping was very good the other night in Baltimore by Ryan
That's
Kelly,
right.
I would say, in a Colts victory. But Bailey and Wood Financial Group at BAWFG.com, 855-350-HOME.
Can you
if you're
slow
looking
down
to
on giving that
refinance,
information?
the rates are still very low. They're not historically low anymore, but they're still low. They're eventually going to come up, but go ahead and get that done if you haven't already. Also, pre-approval for buying a new home. Now, the market has cooled down a little bit. Kids have settled into school. The fall's not usually a time for home buying, but if you're in the market, it's still competitive. Whenever something is listed, it goes. So you have to make sure that you get that pre-approval.
BAWFG.com.
BAWFG.com. Yep.
And the telephone number again is?
855-350-HOME.
855-350-HOME. Obviously, home field advantage for the Baltimore Ravens last night. Good evening to you, or good afternoon, good morning, whatever it might be. This is Query and Schultz, and a disappointment now as the Colts fall to 1-4 going into Baltimore. And as expected, Derek, it was the Lamar Jackson show, and the Colts were never able to get their footing.
Yeah, it was silly to actually think that the Colts had much of a chance in this game, Jake, to be totally honest with you, as they fall by 20 points. The sacks, the sack total, 8, I think, for the Ravens. As you saw, again, Julian Davenport was just kind of a turnstile out there. Carson Wentz actually had both feet amputated at halftime, so that's a problem and something that we're going to have to watch out for.
What was interesting is when they had to turn around and the backup quarterback comes into play, and, man, for Jacob Eason, obviously the sands are through the hourglass now because Hundley comes out. We now know definitively, even though it was reported who the backup was going to be, a real crossroads here for the Colts.
Yeah, for sure. And, it felt early on in the game that they were going to maybe take control, but then you have 1st and goal at the 1, and you have 3 failed runs, and then Frank Reich pulls out the double reverse flea flicker, and Paris Campbell actually gets tackled for a 28-yard loss. And you just wish.
But he caught the ball?
Yeah, well, he did catch the ball, yes.
Good, yeah.
You just wish maybe that the play calling would have been a little bit better in that goal-to-go situation for the Colts.
So 2 things have been served here. First, the Colts are now 1-4, and second, we have now covered both bases to be able to splice this on Tuesday, and you'll think to yourself, those guys were live.
Totally believable.
Yeah.
And you guys are none the wiser at home.
I was very passable in my explanation until the double amputee comment made it a little
It's
obvious.
possible.
But
I'm not rooting for it to happen.
There were a lot of rooting interest that went topsy-turvy, though, over the weekend, Derek. Let's get to college football because you had mentioned no Indiana, no Purdue. That means you can focus in on games around the country. I was in the car and kind of following along with Notre Dame, and I thought for sure they were going to drop one at Virginia Tech. And then, boom.
Well, they gave up a touchdown with 3 minutes left, and Va-Tech's up 8, and you're like, okay, that's all she wrote. Brian Kelly goes back to Jack Cohn, who looked awful in the first half, and Cohn suddenly turns into like Joe Montana, the chicken soup game where he drove them right down the field. They score, get the 2-point conversion, get a 3-and-out, come back, go right down the field. Doerr's a great kicker and a great asset for Notre Dame to have when you can line up a guy from 45, 47, 48 yards and rely on him to make kicks like that. But a really important win for Notre Dame, Jake, because their schedule has fallen apart. USC looks terrible. They're getting routinely dunked on by middling Pac-12 teams at home. They gave up 42 to Utah, who's very North Carolina is the biggest disappointment in the entire country. They've been awful. And those were 2 games that you thought going into the year, oh, God, those are top 20 teams. Those are going to be tough games. Now, Notre Dame is not in a place to overlook anybody because they're not good enough to do that. They're 5-1, but they're extremely fortunate to be 5-1. But if you could find a way, if Notre Dame could find a way to get to 10-2 with this deeply flawed team and having to play freshmen and injuries and the quarterback turnstile situation, I think that's one of Brian Kelly's better coaching jobs if they can get there.
Do you see a path where Notre Dame can find their way into the college football playoff?
No. Because like what did I just mention, the resume. Right. What would Notre Dame's best – let's say Notre Dame goes 11-1. What would their best win be? Stanford? Virginia Tech?
Fair.
You can't get in on that.
Right.
And I think we all know there's a certain element of everyone stinks, but there is a certain element of eye test that you have to pass if you're going to make the playoff. And the 2018 Notre Dame team or the 2020 team passed the eye test. 2012 just had a bunch of great wins, so you had to put them in. They were undefeated. And that was the BCS. That was the last BCS, right? Or second to last BCS championship game. This team doesn't. Notre Dame is a lot closer to the 24th best team in the country than the 4th best team, even in a year like this one.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this year to me, Derek, in college football, and is a little bit of this going off of reputation, maybe, but I still think Alabama is one of the 2 best teams in the country. Georgia, to me, is really strong. Georgia's defensive four is so good. I just think Georgia's on another level. Georgia is this year's Alabama, so to speak. But Georgia, Alabama, and then you have Tier 2. I think Ohio State is surging towards that bubble. Mm-hmm. But Tier 2 to me is more – it's Ohio State leaving that pack. And then you have probably Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's clearly very good. Who am I missing here? Iowa, Michigan, Penn State, right? But to me, the top 2 are head and shoulders.
What I worry about with Iowa, you have to give Iowa its flowers, right, with how they've played so far and who they've beaten so far. Their resume is good. And what do you want them to do? They've won every game, right? Oh, well, they're Iowa. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but it's got to be resume-based too. They remind me of that Michigan State team in 2015 Correct. That we all knew wasn't one of the 4 best teams, but they had, remember they beat Oregon, they beat Ohio State, they beat Penn State. They lost to Nebraska in a weird game.
Right.
But they beat an undefeated Iowa team in the Big Ten championship game. You had to put Michigan State in the playoff. And if Iowa wins all their games, you have to put them in. It doesn't matter
Correct.
Whether they pass the eye test or not. Cincinnati is the one that I feel bad for because they're the ones that really they don't want Alabama losses and stuff like that, right? Because you don't want this chaos situation where you're sifting through one-loss teams because that puts them in a bind, I think. They need teams – these other teams like Oklahoma and stuff to play their way out. Bama is the ultimate benefit of the doubt team. So I thought last weekend the path was cleared out for Cincinnati, and now I thought this weekend, oh, God, now Cincinnati needs help again.
Right.
So that's the team that I really kind of feel bad for in this whole situation.
In terms of the Big Ten, I was very impressed by Iowa getting
5
that win.
teams in the top 10.
I know.
Wild.
The one that we don't talk a lot about, Derek, that I'm still not sold on, not because they're not good, I just haven't seen enough of them, is Michigan State.
And Michigan. Michigan barely survived in Lincoln, and Nebraska's better. I know we make fun of them. Nebraska's better than maybe what their record says that they are, but they've got to prove it too. And the thing is, Jake, with Michigan and Michigan State, all those Big Ten East teams, they have plenty of opportunities to prove it.
You're right.
It's just weird to me that the schedule is so backloaded, where none of those teams have played each other yet. It feels like every single one of those matchups is a second-half game.
Going to be a lot of big games, right, coming up.
Whereas you've had a lot of the crossover games like Penn State, Iowa, and, I don't know, Wisconsin, Michigan was supposed to be a big crossover game. You haven't had the Big Ten East versus Big Ten East games yet.
You know what I figured out over the weekend? There are 2 teams in the Big Ten, 2 schools in the Big Ten that have not been on their campus. Only 2. Of the, 14 teams now?
Yeah.
2.
Rutger.
Do you want to guess the 2?
Rucker.
It's Rutgers.
Yeah, you've never been to Rucker, I bet.
That's one of the 2. That's correct.
Piscataway's. Why in the world would you be? I don't even know why you would be down there. Yeah. And apparently it's a nice campus. I've never actually been to Piscataway either. I've been Princeton.
How far is Piscataway from New York City?
Hour and a half, maybe. I'm
so
trying
it's
to think.
Southern Jersey?
My ex-girlfriend was in West Windsor, which is right near Princeton, down the turnpike, and I think it was 6 or 7 exits from Piscataway.
You have an ex-girlfriend. For a guy that got beat by
I did well in New Jersey. That was a fertile recruiting ground for me. Yeah. I hit Jersey a lot.
Apparently.
Yeah.
What are you, Pauly or whatever? Pauly
Sorry,
D?
hit's probably the wrong term for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rutgers is one. You want to guess the other Big Ten school? Might surprise you.
The other Big Ten school where you have never been on campus.
Never been on the campus. It's going to surprise you.
Is there a reason to go to Lansing, Michigan? It's the state capital, right? Is that the one?
I've never been to Michigan State.
Wow. See?
I've worked with you far too long, if you know that. That is terrifying.
That is a complete guess.
How do you know? Are you tracking me?
No, but I went, actually, I dated a girl from Summit, New Jersey named Megan, whose sister, Eileen, worked in the State House in Lansing, Michigan. So we drove, when we were dating at IU, this is a different girl than the girl that was at West Windsor. We drove up to Lansing, and I was like, it's what's up there. It's a very weird place for a state capital. You have like Grand Rapids and Detroit, and you've got all these other interesting places in Michigan.
I
thought
Michigan State.
Lansing was completely uninteresting.
I like Michigan State, but I just, for whatever reason, I've never been.
It's like the Hartford, Connecticut of Midwest.
Did you
capitals.
smoke cigarettes during your drive up there?
Oh yeah, I smoked on all drives. That was the hardest thing when I quit cigarettes. The hardest thing. A lot of people say drinking was driving because I like the end of the day in the car. Cigarette was or a really nice day. Blast the music. Smoke a cigarette in the car. Loved it. I still miss it sometimes. Don't ever smoke. Don't ever smoke. No, it was hard, Jake. It was a hard thing for me to give up. I love cigarettes in the car.
I'm just picturing you rolling around with a butt hanging out.
Yeah.
Some random New Jersey girl riding shotgun.
That's right. Livin. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Or
Fair
sometimes
enough.
it'd be in the backseat.
Okay. Right. Okay. Sure. By the way, coming up later in this program, we will do Buy It or Bull Schultz. We'll get away from the talk about Derek's road trips, Newports, random New Jersey girls, and driving to Michigan. And instead, we will do Buy It or Bull Schultz, brought to you by The Shop Indy. The Shop Indy has 2 locations, 918 Broad Avenue or up in Clay Terrace. You can always find them online 24/7 at theshopindy.com. We're talking about T-shirts of Americana, if you will, but the culture of Indianapolis. And then, of course, with the name, image, likeness, whether you are a fan of Butler, Ball State, Purdue, Indiana, Notre Dame, whatever it might be, The Shop Indy has the T-shirt for you. Talking about fabulous quality, great looks. I love the cut on them. They always make me look good, Derek. The Shop.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Me too.
TheShopIndy.com. Speaking of that, Derek, we will do Buy It or Bull Schultz later, but we have other segments to get to as well.
We do. Actually, let's do our IMCU Player of the Week right now because we have like 5 other segments to get to. Our friends at IMCU, by the way, we've got an interview at the end of the show with Ron Collier.
That's right.
The CEO, who's
Great guy.
about to retire, but a really nice guy, and it was fun catching up with him. We're glad to be on the Indiana Members Credit Union team.
Yes, sir.
On the show with us at imcu.com. You can check out everything that they can do for you. I'm going to pre-predict it here, kind of like we jokingly did with the 2 separate Colts win, Colts lose. I do think Jonathan Taylor ends up being the player of the game. If it's going to play out the way that both you and I think, where the Colts win, I think it's going to have to be Jonathan Taylor.
Truth be told, Derek, even if the Colts stub their toe and don't win in Baltimore, you would think that Jonathan Taylor probably is the guy that is going to hear his name called the most against the Ravens because of the fact that I think the Colts know, especially with some injury issues on the line, Carson Wentz, you're still trying to kind of ease him back in terms of his mobility. The running game is going to be very important. So plenty of opportunity in this game for Jonathan Taylor, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of opportunity, all kinds of opportunities at Indiana Members Credit Union if you are a customer of the union itself, right, Derek?
Yes, free checking accounts with e-statements, low auto rates, and more. All you have to do is go to imcu.com and see what IMCU can do for you.
imcu.com. What do we have coming up next?
We're going to do our Love That Play coming up. Your trip, the coolest thing that Jake does. I want to get into that as well.
Things.
And it's actually one area where you have more knowledge than I do, which is not outside of like Brady Bunch and garbage like that. There aren't a lot of areas like that that we'll discuss when we return. It's Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Meet Kate. She has a lot to juggle. Family, work, it can lead to trying days and tired nights. But we know Kate, and at Indiana Members Credit Union, we know at some point her space at a premium life may change. IMCU is here to help Kate and you find your space. Now, add on or remodel with an introductory rate of 1.9% APR on a home equity line of credit. Today, it's all about Kate. Tomorrow, it's all about you. Because at IMCU, it's you that matters.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Rolling right along on Query and Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. Look, we get it. There's a Colts game that's coming up in, 20 or 30 minutes from now. I'm not sure where we are time-wise because we're taping this earlier
Hello
today.
to Vince, by the way, who is driving to Ohio, seemingly going to listen to the game, but listening to this as well.
But we want to make sure that we're going to get you out in time for Colts kickoff, so we'll make sure to do that. But if you're planning to go to the next Colts home game, which is coming up Sunday against Houston, you can get in the door for as little as $27 right now at onlyindytickets.com. New sponsor of the show, and they do a great job of keeping the ticket prices very, very low while keeping the authenticity very, very high. I think the problem with a lot of these ticket sites is you're like, are they going to work when I get to the door?
Right.
Because you hear those stories. I mean, it's far more prevalent, I think, than people think, where you buy something from an offshoot site and then they come in and they say, well, somebody already used this, or this doesn't even work. You're never going to have to worry about that at onlyindytickets.com. And it's not just Colts and Pacers, everything. So concerts, events, Indy Fuel games, anything like that.
LeBron James, remember when LeBron James used to do the thing where he'd do this?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me to do. But think of LeBron, even though LeBron's not Indianapolis, but if he was, he's pushing those prices down, right? That's what onlyindytickets.com does.
They do a great job with that.
Lowers those prices.
And you know me, I'm a former couponer and all of that.
Former?
Well, I still dabble here and there, but not as hardcore as I did like 10 years ago, where I went on the show and did all of that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Marsh's took away Triple Coupon Day, and that was kind of the beginning of the end for me as a couponer. But onlyindytickets.com is going to get you the best price. They're your ticket to everything that's going on in Indianapolis. Check them out. New partner of ours, onlyindytickets.com, and get your Colts Texans seats right now.
Okay. And in terms of the features, I said Biter Bolschultz.
We're going to do Sage Move of the Week and Love That Play. You want to do Love That Play right now?
Sure.
We do Love That Play right now.
Love That Play, of course, is brought to you by Love Heating and Air Conditioning. Love Heating and Air. Love-HVAC.com. Who's your own company? Been around for now over 100 years in Central Indiana. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number. Folks, it's very simple, and that is this. If you are listening to this program or you are watching it, I appreciate that very much, and I want to make sure that you know that you can trust us with each of those companies that we are telling you about, and I know that you can with Love Heating and Air because I've known them my entire life, talking about quality, integrity, family-owned business, by the way, knowledge of product, and great customer service. That's why they've been able to last for over 100 years. Love-HVAC.com, bringing us each and every week our favorite play of the weekend, Derek.
Did you see the Rondale Moore catch yesterday?
Rondale Moore's been outstanding for the Cardinals.
The sidelines, I mean, it was just an incredible play. The truly incredible plays are the ones where the guys make it look easy, you know? And you're like, that's so – the broadcasters, and I don't remember – forgive me. I don't remember who was doing play-by-play in the game. They immediately just defaulted to, oh, okay, well, he's out of bounds. And he was called out of bounds on the field. And then you look at the replay and you're like, holy crap. He got both of his feet in. Just an incredible play for Rondale Moore. Multiple catches in all 5 NFL games so far. He had a 100-yard game against the Vikings. So, look, is Rondale Moore going to be an all-pro in year one? No, nothing like that. But he is a big-time, reliable, contributing player for them on a undefeated football team, the only undefeated team left in the league.
Dynamic offense. I love, by the way, for the Cardinals, I love the black jersey, white helmet, standard. I mean,
I hear you. The Cardinals, it's a little hard for me. Kind of like, remember when the Clippers got good for a little while? And you're like, the Clippers? Like, the Cardinals are always going to be kind of that team for me.
I get it.
Growing up in the 80s and 90s, they were this NFC East team, and you're like, why are they even in this division? Nobody cared about those games. But, man, with Kyler and Rondale and if we were talking like NBA League Pass watchability, the Cardinals would be very, very high on that list.
What does Kyler Murray have on his?
It's Bruce Lee, isn't it?
I think it is Bruce Lee, isn't it? I didn't know about that.
It's sharp.
But look, is Arizona not unlike the Clippers? You know, the Clippers suddenly, when they broke through and they first had like Blake Griffin and that group, and suddenly it was trendy. They were cool. The Clippers went from being a laughingstock doormat to being cool. Are the Cardinals on the cusp of becoming the NFL's it team?
Oh, yeah. I think, no, if you're 16 years old right now, you have no memory of, like, the bad, like Eric Swan and,
Right.
you know, they have Jake Plummer, I think, for one of those years where they were pretty good. They went to Dallas and I think won a playoff game.
Adrian Morrell
97.
probably was
Adrian
a running back.
Morrell, wow, that's a great one. Seth Joyner,
Yeah.
you know, you can remember some of Johnny Johnson, some of those Arizona Cardinals players from over the years on very unremarkable Arizona teams. But, yeah, that's the new trend. Jake, when it was you and me in our generation, you watched the teams that were on. So if you grew up in Indianapolis, you were a Pacers fan. You might be like a Steelers fan or something if they weren't on. But if you were where I was, you were a fan of a Northeast team. And now you talk to kids and they're like, oh, I like the Thunder and the Lakers and, you know, whatever else. The Padres. Okay. And you can watch all three of them and be a diehard fan.
You know, one of the teams that I thought was going to this year, I kind of got on board with it, a little bit of a bandwagoner maybe, but now I think it's going to come to an end. Are the White Sox going to be done here?
I don't want to be too overly time sensitive here. They just won Game 3 as we're taping this 12-6. Look, they're not as good as the Astros. So what I'm trying to guard against is this is a completely flawed and this is just a not very good Red Sox team. And I swear, if they go on a run, that's it for me. I'm just going to go to the White River one day when it's really cold and just jump in. And that's it. I cannot possibly survive another Red Sox run. I just can't.
Do you need a ride?
I don't want to do it.
You know what?
I don't want to deal with it.
Can you do me a favor? Can you take one of the scooters with you?
Yeah. I'll only be taking one off the streets. You know, in all honesty, I really shouldn't even joke about that. I'm just going to throw my phone in the White River if that happens because I don't want to hear from my mother-in-law, from my wife, from anybody. Like, I just – no more Boston sports. Done. The Patriots are done. Thank God that thing is over. We were waiting for that to be over. It is over. Thank God. Like, let's just get the Red Sox out of here. Like, let it be the Rays. What a feel. I don't even like the Rays, but what a feel-good story at least that is. Like,
how are the Rays feel good?
Nathan Eovaldi pitching a no-hitter in Game 4 of the World Series as the Red Sox sweep a 108-win Giants or 106-win Dodgers team. Like, just please, God, don't let that happen.
I've never seen you like this.
Ugh.
I mean, this is
they're like the fourth best team in the division. Like, I don't even know why they're even here, and here they are. Like, they have this ground rule double where it bounces off a dude and then suddenly it's up.
It's the right call.
You can't score.
The right call,
Yeah,
Derek.
it's the right call, but it's
the rule book.
This ridiculous nonsense that just I don't even know how it happens. That 2013 team, they had like Shane Victorino and Johnny Gomes and Mike Napoli and all these big players have these like huge seasons simultaneously. It's annoying.
What's funny is, for those that are not familiar with it, in the Tampa Red Sox game, which was game what, Derek? 3?
Yeah.
Right?
Because they're up 2-1 as we are taping this.
So it's extra innings game. It's tight. Tampa's trying to break through and take themselves a lead. You have a double where the ball bounces off the wall and then off the chest of the defender.
Completely unintentional, by the way.
Into the bullpen.
I should say.
Right. The fact that there is a rule written in the rule book for that circumstance is like they officially thought of everything, didn't they?
Well, it's kind of what are you going to do?
Here's what happens if the ball bounces off a defender into the stands.
Well, it's just what happens if the ball becomes out of play, and it became out of play. Now, it was this crazy fluke set of circumstances that it became out of play. But what are you going to do? You don't want players going into the stands to retrieve live baseballs, right? So I get why the rule is there. It's just me complaining. I just had to rant a little bit about that. But, Sal and Steve, my in-laws, are coming this week, and I don't want to be preparing for a Red Sox ALCS where it's on my TV and it's my house. You know what I mean? Like, and they're watching the Red Sox game, and I'm like, this is where I live. Like, we pay the mortgage. Like, I don't want to watch the Red Sox in my house, and I'm gonna have to watch it. because that's the way that it is. Because my wife runs the show, and that's
doesn't sound like you're very hospitable, but that's okay.
No, I'm not when it comes to that. Not to the Red Sox. Let's talk about your trip. For those that don't know, if you're a longtime radio listener, you know about this because this was what, year 5?
Yeah, started in 2016.
You had a very, very dear friend, Turhan, who was a oncologist in Austin, Texas.
Correct.
Who sadly passed away himself from cancer at a young age, because you guys are still you're getting less young, but you're still relatively young. And you had to go and pick up his car for his parents and drive it back to Austin, correct?
Drive it from Austin.
Drive it from Austin. His parents are in Indianapolis.
Correct.
He was in Austin. So you and a couple of your friends, it's not always Byron, is it?
No, it was just Byron.
Okay, it's just Byron. Okay. See, I think I have the story, but you fill in the blanks for me. Have decided, hey, let's just fly somewhere one way and then drive a rental car back. And you knocked out New Mexico as your 50th state doing this trip.
Yep.
Where else have you gone? I just
We have
remember
done,
the New Mexico one.
in the annual Turhan Memorial Road trip, we have done, obviously Austin was year 1 for the reason you explained. Albuquerque, we drove from Albuquerque to Indy. We did Montreal, where we did.
I do remember that one.
From
now
Montreal
that you
down through Vermont. Saw my buddy Rick Carlson and came back. We did Philadelphia. So that was, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this year for the 5th, we were to fly into Cheyenne, Wyoming. But the flight from Denver to Cheyenne got canceled. So we flew to Denver, picked up the rental car in Denver, and drove from Denver into Laramie, Wyoming via Cheyenne. And Laramie was kind of the home base. We spent the night there on Thursday night. My friend Keith Steele, who I worked with at Hardwick's many years ago, his son, Caleb, is a freshman at University of Wyoming, so we took Caleb out for dinner and took him to Walmart and loaded him up on mac and cheese and Little Debbie stuff, sent him back to his dorm.
Yum.
Yeah. We went to the University of Wyoming Arena on Friday morning, then drove to Devil's Tower. Devil's Tower is fascinating, Derek, because Devil's Tower is in the northeast corner of Wyoming. And it essentially, for lack of a better phrase, I'm not going to get overly scientific, but, a gabillion years ago, it was a volcanic eruption, essentially, for lack of a better phrase, where that then solidified, petrified, and everything around it now has whittled down to the ground surface that we know today. And it is, to Native Americans, it is a holy land. It is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. That picture, no picture does it justice when you roll up on it.
Wow.
But, it's interesting to me because it's about 2 hours from Mount Rushmore. Devil's Tower is. It's just west of Mount Rushmore, essentially. We went to Mount Rushmore as well, which has become overly commercialized, and it's like Niagara Falls. But no one knows about Devil's Tower. Very few people, when you say Devil's Tower, know what it is.
Yeah, I felt bad because you posted that and said something about mashed potatoes, and I was like, I don't get either of these references. I don't know what this is, and
it's
I don't
referenced
know
in the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Anyway, we went from Devil's Tower down into Nebraska, and then Saturday, Byron and I drove across Nebraska and went to Lincoln, Nebraska on Saturday evening for Nebraska-Michigan. Now, we didn't have any plan on going to the game, but we wanted to kind of just get the ambiance of a big-time college football environment. So we went to a bar in Nebraska, an outdoor bar called Barry's, which is kind of like their Harry's Chocolate Shop or their Nick's, you know. And there were two guys our age, so two other old guys in the bar. And I walked up to them. Now, Byron and I were dressed completely neutrally. I was wearing, just a T-shirt and jeans, and he had on jeans and he had a shirt from the shop, actually. But it was an esoteric IU reference. Nobody outside of Indiana would have known what it was. But Byron was off, getting a drink, whatever. And I walked up to these two guys and said, hey, they were clearly Nebraska fans. And I said, question for you guys. Okay. And I said, my buddy and I are on a road trip, and we're just driving through to soak in the environment. We grew up following and attending a university whose basketball program seems to be the exact lifetime trajectory of your Nebraska football Cornhusker program. And I mean, instantly, without hesitation, the guy goes, oh, well, welcome to Nebraska from Indiana. Nice. And I said, so you're aware of the IU basketball, Nebraska football? And he goes, I've talked about it with my friends 100 times. It's absolutely, they are mirrored one another. But Chip was the fellow's name, and his buddy Stu were great. They were unbelievably hospitable to us, and we sat and had a great time with them. And Byron had 9 Busch Lights, and was ready to go to the game. And I'm like, no, man, we got a schedule to keep. So
he had a lot of Busch Lights.
Got him back in the car, and I did not obviously have the Busch Lights because I was driving us. And then we drove, ended up in Jefferson City, Missouri that night, and then drove back home on Sunday.
We know 2 Nebraska fans. Kyle Nennerip, Indy star.
I didn't know he's a
Nebraska football fan. His parents were season ticket holders for years. He grew up in western Missouri, I guess. And Brooke from American Dairy Association Indiana is a Nebraska fan.
Really?
She ended up going, I think, to Kansas State. But I'm pretty sure she's a Nebraska fan.
Okay.
Didn't she tell us that?
And the fella that we met when Nebraska was here for the Big Ten Championship game.
Yes, the trucker.
Yeah.
That had a pet raccoon, which we don't have time for on today's show, but maybe we can tell you the story of the pet raccoon.
Speaking of Brooke and the American Dairy Association, Derek, we still have an American Dairy Association segment to get to, right?
We do. Yep. We're going to do our winner of the week coming up next because we need milk in order to do that. Also, our Sage Move of the Week.
Milk.
Yes. Our Sage Move of the Week from WGU Indiana, Buy It or Bold Bleep still to get to, and Quick Hits, which will be extra quick. Okay. I don't know why I did that with my hands. I'm sorry. Right. It's Query and Schultz. It's actually kind of intimidating.
Yeah, okay.
ISC Sports Network. Mm-hmm. My left isn't as strong as my right. My right is devastating.
Okay.
Oh, baby! That got me awake! The worm has turned in Logansport.
Look at that play.
The lob underneath, and if you don't get any picture perfect more than that.
That young man will be glad that our cameras were here for tonight's contest.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz on ISC Sports Network. By the way, one of the great traditions in all of college athletics, November 13th can be seen right here on ISC Sports Network. We're talking about the Monon Bell game, Wabash versus DePaul, and ISC will be carrying that game, Derek. What better thing to do if you're going to go out to the Monon Bell game than to pick up a little smoke and barrel barbecue in Indianapolis and take it with you out to the game, right?
Or any game.
Correct.
I mean, if you're on that side of town, maybe it'd be Warren Central or New Pal or something like that. But take it to any
Travels
game.
well anywhere, right?
Oh, it is so good. And my wife is still talking about the mac and cheese side from last week.
And you get the brisket tacos,
well,
right?
Well, now I have to go back and try everything else because I've had the brisket tacos already. I've had the mac and cheese. Now I want to try all the rest of the sides. I want to try all the rest of the meats at Smoke and Barrel Barbecue. You can do the same thing. Smokin' without the G, so SMOKIN-barrel, 1L. I always misspell barrel for some reason. bbq.com to order online and pick up. It's South German Church Road, so the extreme far east side, if you will. Down. But Mike and CJ, I don't even know what they put in everything. It's the best barbecue that I've ever had.
Didn't I write down the name of the website
the absolute
and hold
best.
It up last time we were on the air?
Yeah, and it looked really low rent.
Smokin', SMOKIN - dash.
Yeah.
Barbecue. or BBQ?
You don't have to step on me. I just said it. I said all of it.
Can you say it again, but a little slower?
Smokin-barrel-barbecue.com. You could also follow them on socials and see, what they've got when they run out of stuff. They post that as well because it's so good that it goes on a run sometimes. But you and I should just go out there. You got nothing better to do. We'll go grab lunch this week out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have nothing better to do, Derek.
I just like, there's something about eating barbecue in a bingo hall. Like a lot of people just pick up or whatever, but you can eat right there. There's just something just authentic. I don't know what it is about that.
No, you're right.
I mean, the food itself is authentic too, but just eating it in a bingo hall and the ambiance of that, it was a lot of fun. So go see Mike and CJ and check out Smoke and Barrel Barbecue. Really happy to have them be part of the show.
Sounds good. By the way, American Dairy Association of Indiana brings us each and every week our winner of the week because, of course, winners drink milk when it comes to the American Dairy Association. And, Derek, we have before us right here, you're already swigging. You're supposed to wait until I give the milk.
I'm a little bit parched. That's good.
Okay. Low-fat chocolate milk, by the way, right here. We always have to read this off the sheet because there's so many facts about them, it's hard to keep it straight. 10 cups of raw spinach, as much potassium as a banana, and as much vitamin A as 2 hard-boiled eggs. That's what you get from delicious low-fat chocolate milk right here. One of the great post-workout drinks that you can have each and every week.
The bottle too.
Of course, winners drink milk. We all know this from the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Derek, our winner of the week is who?
It's going to be a weird choice because he threw for 111 yards and rushed for like 4. But, the Bears, who had a really embarrassing offensive output against Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, have come back and won back-to-back games. They're 3-2, and they're right in the wild card mix. They're right there in the NFC North. They're a game back of the Packers. And I think things are starting to maybe stabilize for them a little bit. It's been tough for rookie quarterbacks. Zach Wilson,
by the way, speaking of which, go ahead.
Has looked absolutely awful. Trevor Lawrence and that Jags team is just overwhelmed week to week because it's just such a bad roster and it's a poorly run franchise. So it's not easy. It's not easy to be thrown in the fire the way Justin Fields was, but I think for all intents and purposes, I don't care if Justin Fields goes out there and throws for 65 yards a game. If you're finding a way to help your team win, or if they're winning and not losing because of you, you're doing a pretty good job as a rookie quarterback.
Okay, I'm going to give you, Derek, real quick. I did this. I thought of this last night. I'm going to give you some stats for like 5 different players, and then of the 5, I want you to tell me which one is most impressive. You ready?
Oh, God, are these going to be rookie quarterbacks?
Player 1.
Terrible.
Player 1, yeah. 357 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks, rating of 37. Player 2. 1,012 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, rating of 50.7. Player 3, 925 yards, 4 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, rating of 23.7. Player 4, 347 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks, rating of 17.6. And the last one, 873 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 7 picks, rating of 34.6.
Last one's Lawrence, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I don't even know who the other ones are, to be totally honest. One of the 300 yards is Fields. So the fourth one, is that Fields? No touchdowns, 2 picks?
The fourth one is Justin Fields.
Okay.
347 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, QBR of 17.6.
Gotcha. Zach Wilson is the 4 and 8.
Zach
4
Wilson,
touchdowns,
925 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 8 picks, 23.7.
Who are the other 2?
The other 2, the first, 357 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 picks, rating of 37, is Davis Mills of the Houston Texans.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
And the second, 1,012 yards
Jones?
passing, 4 touchdowns, 4 picks, rating of 50.7. I think it goes to show with rookie quarterbacks, system and what's around you is so big. Mac Jones walked into a really good system. Can you imagine what Fields or Lawrence would be doing if they walked into that system? But kudos to Mac Jones. He's played well.
Yeah, and it's just tough. It's tough to be a rookie. Also, with Mac Jones was the most turnkey NFL ready outside of Lawrence of those guys. I think there were a lot of, people knew that Zach Wilson was going to have a learning curve. Davis Mills, my God, you were thinking that was going to be your QB2 or QB3. So he was just kind of thrust in there. But the learning curve has been a lot steeper, seemingly, for those guys
Derek,
this year.
The move to Justin Fields perhaps could have been our Sage move of the week. We do that each and every week, brought to you by WGU Indiana, WGU.Indiana. WGU.edu/Indiana is Indiana's largest online accredited university because ambition never rests. That's why Sage the Owl is the mascot because, of course, you have the wisdom of an owl, but also the fact that an owl keeps the schedule that is always, whether it's late at night, whatever it might be, that's how it is for schooling. If you want to go back to school, maybe start right now a brand new degree, and it's one of those things where you want to work around your own schedule, that's what WGU can do for you. They have, obviously, plethora of programs that you can take, but most importantly, do it on your schedule, WGU.edu/Indiana. Our Sage Move of the Week, I've got a curveball here, Derek, outside of the stick and ball sports, but your Sage Move of the Week would be what?
I think it's an easy one. Benching Spencer Rattler and going to Caleb Williams for Oklahoma. And we've talked about this with Clemson and Alabama, but Oklahoma can do this too. Isn't it just insane? You have Spencer Rattler, who a lot of people feel like was the top NFL prospect and top quarterback in the country. He's been a disaster, right, this year. Your second quarterback is this guy named Caleb Williams, who was also the top prospect at his position, the number 6 player nationally, a 5-star all-world quarterback. And it's an embarrassment of riches for these programs to go and do that and have a second quarterback that is that good. And he was amazing, both with his legs and his arm. 3 touchdowns. He came in with an 18-point deficit. I think it was 35-17, and just really rallied the troops. And you just wonder if that's the spark that Oklahoma needed, because a lot of people felt like this could be a national championship caliber Oklahoma team, and Rattler was so bad in the first couple of games that I think was holding them back.
I'm going to give it to, even though we typically do one of these, but for my Sage Move of the Week, I'm going to go with Jack Harvey, IndyCar driver who was with Michael Shank Racing. I loved the loyalty those two had towards one another and helping build that team. But Jack Harvey got an opportunity to go drive for Rahal, Letterman, Landing, and Racing, and took it. Announcement is now official, but not the 30 car of Takuma Sato like we expected. He will be in the 45 car with Hy-Vee Grocery sponsorship. But I think Jack Harvey's got a lot of talent, really nice guy, and he could become a star in IndyCar, who's been very consistent now with a team that has some footing in place. Curious to see what Jack Harvey does.
Yeah, good for Jack. Good-looking guy, too.
He is.
Yeah, and he's got the accent.
He does.
I'm very rarely jealous of somebody else because I'm kind of the total package when it comes to that. But Jack Harvey's one of those guys that I aspire to be.
Okay.
A little bit. Do we have time for quick hits?
Sure.
Okay.
Real quick. They got to be quick, though.
Okay. The quickest of quick hits. You ready?
Yep.
Undefeated Cathedral, undefeated Center Grove meet Friday, and that'll be a matchup of top 15 national teams. Center Grove is number 8, Cathedral's number 14 in this week's High School Football America poll. How about
Pretty
that?
cool, right?
Both the clear favorites in 6A and 5A.
Cathedral's really good, but Center Grove's
the U.S. men's national team fell to Panama 1-0 in a World Cup qualifier last night. They play Costa Rica in Columbus, Ohio on Wednesday.
Do they have a chance of missing the World Cup?
There's always a chance. But Greg Rakestraw, resident soccer expert, tells me that they are still in the driver's seat to qualify.
How do you lose to Panama?
They were tired. They played a bunch of second stringers in the second half. I know. Yeah.
Panama.
It's like Van Halen. Really, really good.
Panama.
Really good band.
Yeah. Reach down between my legs and ease the seat back. She's running.
You just use the automatic.
I'm just going with the lyrics of the song, Derek. It's from the 80s.
Okay. Kyrie Irving, able to practice at the Nets facility in Brooklyn, will not be able to play in the home games because of the vaccine mandate. Apparently, the city is determining that the Nets training center is a private office building as opposed to an indoor gym, so it does not fall under the umbrella of the COVID restrictions.
No comment, Derek.
Kyrie wants people to talk about him. This gets people to talk about him, so he's getting what he wants.
Okay.
Bye, Bo Bleep, and we will wrap up the show when we return. It's Query and Schultz back for a final time next on ISC.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages at a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Back for a final time, it's Query and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. Alongside Jay Query, I'm Derek Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. This final portion of the show brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. Nope, just Chateau. Okay. ChateauKitchens.com. Follow them on socials at Chateau Kitchens, Instagram, on Facebook to see before and after pictures. Just put in the deposit. They've got their people coming out this week, their tradesmen, the electricians, to look at the bathroom, scope everything out. We already have our plans. Megan, our designer, put together the guest bathroom for us, and they'll be working on it real soon.
Meg and your designer, or Megan?
Megan, yes. I don't refer to her informally like that. I don't know her like that.
Okay, fair enough. Chateau Kitchens, right?
Yes.
Chateau Kitchens and home
They do
remodeling.
amazing work. If you're remodeling a basement, a kitchen, anything in the interior of your home, give Chateau a call or check out their showroom there on Carmel Drive.
Earlier, you heard me, understandably so and rightly so, praising the virtues of The Shop Indy, theshopindy.com, 918 Broad Ripple Avenue in Clay Terrace. They bring us each and every week buy it or bull Schultz. Derek makes a statement, and I say whether or not we buy it or whether or not we can consider it to be 100% bull Schultz.
All right, you ready?
Yep.
Statement 1, the Bills are the best team in the National Football League. Buy it or bull bleep.
Say that again?
Bills, best team in the NFL. Buy it or bull bleep.
One would say Arizona is the only unbeaten, but I'll tell you what, the way Buffalo's playing right now, Josh Allen incorporating his legs and his athleticism and their defense, taking the ball away, yes, most complete team in the NFL.
Kind of hard to separate, I guess, right? I'll say yes. Gun to my head, I'll say Buffalo is the best, but Arizona is really intriguing, their playmaking ability. How about Kansas City now, 2-3 on the year? Oh, wait, are they 2-3? 3-2?
Give a lot of money.
I think they're 2-3. I feel bad. I have to look this up now. I didn't stay up for the game because they had a delay.
Huge delay, weather delay. It's hard to give a lot of money to one player and then have
2-3.
money left over to build completion. And they're finding that out.
It's a great offense. It's not so much a great defense is Kansas City's problem. Statement 2, buy it or bull bleep. Michigan is for real, and they will contend for a Big Ten title. They have to go at Penn State. I think Michigan State is road 2. Ohio State is home, if memory serves. I looked at their schedule this morning.
Michigan has 3 losses left in them. They are good. They are not elite.
3 losses might be a little harsh.
Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State.
Happy Valley is such a tough place to play. And it's hard to believe that they'll beat Ohio State just because they never beat Ohio State. So I'll say Michigan's going to go 10-2. But you know what? With where they've been, 10-2, and they win a New Year's Six bowl, I think that's a pretty good season for Michigan, all things considered. So I'll say bull bleep, but I hate Michigan, but actually I'm not so low on them this year. Finally, candy corn actually isn't bad. It gets a bad rap. Buy it or bull bleep?
Buy it, 100% like it. Can't do a lot of it. Gets old quickly, but I do like it. It's like eggnog. You got to do it.
It's all plasticky and
inside's pretty good though.
I mean, I like really fake candy though. Like I like Fun Dip and stuff like that. So I guess I guess I can't hate on like wax,
right?
The waxiness of candy corn. The peanuts
a little
thing
goes
is
a
weird.
long way.
Like eating it with peanuts. I saw somebody do that, and I was like, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
you like candy corn, right? Try it sometime and report back and tell me what you think.
I can't eat peanuts though, Derek.
Thanks to our crew today,
diverticulitis.
Jordan Chu, Jake Morris, Greg Rakestraw. Thanks to you guys for watching. I know the Colts game is about to kick off, so we really appreciate that. You can also check out the podcast, all major platforms, QueryandSchultz.com, at Schultz975, at Jake Query on Twitter to follow along with us.
All right.
Until next time, we will see you next week here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Should I wave too?
Sure. Why not? We're friendly guys.
Parade wave?
Dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
It's here. The moment that will define you. So think of this moment as your moment. The one you've been waiting for. You were built for it. And so were we. WGU, the online university where ambition never rests.
Hey, I'm Jeff Saturday, and my favorite thing when I was a professional football player was Indiana. The Hoosier State always made me feel like family. That's why I trust Indiana's hometown mortgage lender, Bailey & Wood. This family-owned company not only gives back to the communities they serve, but also with their 5-star customer service, they can close on your dream home in days, not weeks. So remember, Indiana, you can always get your mortgages in a snap with Bailey & Wood.
Hey, Jeff, how does this look? Yay!
Not bad, bud, but let's stick to mortgages.
Welcome back to Corey and Schultz here on ISC Sports Network. And Jake, I know we don't get to do this very often, especially with somebody that carries a title like president and CEO, but we've got a guest on the show, and it's our friend Ron Collier, who runs the ship over at Indiana Members Credit Union, who, as you guys know, has been on our ship for the last couple of weeks here on Corey and Schultz. And Ron, we're thrilled to have you on the show. It's actually just great to talk to somebody who isn't Jake, so I appreciate it.
Well, listen, congratulations on your show. We're delighted to help you out, and I wish I could listen to it more, but congratulations, you guys. You're great.
Hey, Ron, I want to ask you about this. I know you've been with Indiana Members Credit Union for a long time. You and I have met through some of the different philanthropic things that you guys do. Yeah. And let me tell you what I love about the credit union. I love the fact that it has the name Indiana in it, because I always say you cut me and I bleed the torch, right, for the state of Indiana. But the commitment that you guys have, I think you take it seriously. You know, the fact that Indiana's in your name, you're Hoosier through and through like myself. How important is it for you to see the outreach that you guys do in all the different areas in central Indiana?
Well, I love Indiana, and I always have. And given the name Indiana, no matter where we go in the state and where we might grow in the state, we're serving Indiana. So it really makes it easier for us. We've had a number of different names in the times that I've been here, but Indiana, I think, will always be part. And it's very important to us to do outreach. Like you said, you were involved with a bowling thing that we did. You came and visited us. I think we were on one of your shows you were on. We raise money and we give it to a lot of schools and a lot of organizations in Indianapolis and the surrounding areas that do such great work. And so we're very proud to have Indiana in our name and do that kind of outreach that you're talking about.
And for a lot of customers, you know, maybe especially ones that are affiliated with national banks and they've got offices in New York or LA or Charlotte. Ron, you're an East Side guy, right? Warren Central, Ball State grad, Indiana through and through, teaching Noblesville and in the community. How important is it to you to kind of stress that local feel of it and say, hey, you can trust us because we're in the community every single day, and these other people are in high rises somewhere else?
Yeah, it's really an advantage that I think we have, because all of our decisions are made here locally. And if you like the decisions we made, I made them. And if you don't, somebody else made them. But it really gives us an edge, because especially when we're dealing with our business members, we can make the decisions here. We know who they are. They know who we are. You don't have to call out of state to get a decision made. It's a big advantage to us. And all credit unions are like this. I mean, no matter where you are, we have members in all 50 states. No matter where you are, you can do business with us. It's a lot harder if you're not around here. But yeah, I mean, it's really a big advantage. And we are local, and we support local organizations. And we're now in Clarksville and Evansville and Bloomington, and we've already started to mainly educational type things. We support with school supplies and with scholarships and things like that. We want to do it. We enjoy doing it. made a lot of friends by doing this, and we'll continue to do this.
Ron, here's the real trick, and I think you guys have mastered this. And I'm not asking you to tip your hand for others out there that might be competitors. Not that you have competitors, but how do you grow while still being quaint?
Well, we grow one member at a time. And as we serve our members throughout the state of Indiana, we're hoping that they tell other people that they just get good service here and that we're friendly. And we do a lot of training on that. And so I think we just kind of organically grow by doing nothing special other than being nice to people. I mean, I know that sounds corny, but that's the way that we've kind of lived around here. And we try to make it easy for people to do business with us. We've got all the fancy electronic services that anybody else has. The young people especially like that. Some of them probably never see the inside of our branches. And we also have 35 branches scattered throughout the area. You just need to hit a lot of singles, make people happy, and get ahead in the game. And that's really our secret, I guess, if we have one.
Ron, you were an IHSAA official for many, many years. And when I'm watching TV at home, I've never refereed a game or anything like that. I'm yelling at the TV. I'm yelling things that I can't repeat in this interview at referees. Are you also one of those people, or having been in that boat, do you understand how hard the job is, especially on the collegiate or pro level, so you give them a little bit more of a break maybe when you're watching?
Well, I not only yell at the TV, I throw stuff at the TV, and I'm hard on the officials. But high school football is what I refereed for 31 years. It was a delight to go out on a beautiful Friday evening where it's an event at these schools and just be part of it. We had a good attitude. I refereed with the same guys for 17 years at one point. We just tried to keep the game moving, not call a lot of penalties, call them when we need to if somebody's getting an advantage. But it kind of, in a way, it's also a curse because the rules are so different between high school and pros that I sit there and I watch these very talented referees in the college and the pro game, and I don't understand the rules. I love the high school rules, but yeah, it's kind of a blessing and a curse. I do understand when a call is made. I am sympathetic when all the referees get out in the middle of the field and talk for 15 minutes, try to get something right, because there's a lot of things that happen out on that field. But I'm not so hard on the officials in the pro and the college game. I like to kind of chide the guys that are on TV sometimes in the high school game, but it was a wonderful experience, and it does kind of help you understand the game a little bit more when these strange calls are made and you kind of know what's going on. The timing rules in the pros is what really ruins the game for me. That ball goes out of bounds, you're not supposed to start the clock until they hike it, but that's the way it is. And it's really made it enjoyable for me in some ways, but also I do kind of examine how they make their calls. And I think everybody ought to give them a break. There's a lot going on with those fast, strong, big guys out there on the field, and there should be enough of them to call it right. And I think they do a great job. If they get rid of the video replay, I think it would be better, though.
So, Ron, here's the thing. I'm going to summarize the conversation with you here in terms of Indiana Members Credit Union and your work, okay? Hoosier through and through, dedicated to the community, starts simply with being good to people and looking after your fellow man, both in philanthropy and also from a customer base. And when people do things that are wrong, it's always going to be Derek on this show, and feel free to throw stuff at your TV when you're talking.
Of course.
I got it, right?
I think that's a pretty good summary. Now, there is one thing I'd like to say to you, Jake. I'm going to retire at the end of next year, and if you'd like to give me a retirement gift, can I tag along with you to one of the IndyCar races? Because, man, I'm a big IndyCar fan.
I'll tell you what, you can absolutely do it. I'm thrilled to have you. And it's not very exciting watching what I do, but the races are awfully good. So the racing's fun. I don't know about my job aspect of it, but I would be thrilled to have you. You'd be a welcome guest anytime.
Well, thank you.
That's what always happens. Everybody wants to hang out with Jake at the end of the conversation. Of course. That's what happens. That's Ron Collier, CEO and president of IMCU, IMCU.com, Indiana Members Credit Union, a great partner of ours on Query and Schultz. And we really appreciate your support, not only for our show, Ron, but also what you do in the Indianapolis and just the Indiana community in general. Congratulations on the retirement that is upcoming as well. And keep up the great work while there's still work to do for you there.
Well, thank you so much. And again, congratulations for you guys. Hope you're on the air for a long time.
Indiana dairy farmers provide us with safe, pure foods for our tables. A responsibility that takes intuition, resolve, and determination to make sure their milk is good for you and delicious to taste. Their connection with our community runs deep, passed down through the generations, ensuring that milk is always available at your store. It's not easy being a dairy farmer, but the rewards have special meaning when you can feed Indiana's families every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.